It's time to focus on the things you need, the things you deserve. You deserve a healthy body, supplements that get you moving and keep you moving, that make you feel good, look good, do good. And they shouldn't contain GMOs, artificial ingredients, or heavy metals, ever. Supplements that are clinically studied, use proven absorption technologies, are designed by scientists, and are ethically sourced and produced. Supplements with everything you need, nothing you don't. You deserve a company that you can trust, that's dedicated to safe manufacturing practices and third-party testing, that ensures the highest quality of effectiveness from extraction of ingredients all the way to the composition of the packaging. Wait a second. You deserve to see the process. You deserve a company led by a CEO with a deep belief in the power of people, dedicated to inspiring entrepreneurs to achieve success. A company with a phytonutrient chemist and expert on natural molecules who is obsessed with human health and has your best interest in mind to design its products. A board comprised of talented doctors from around the world. You deserve to be surrounded by people you trust and look up to. Empowered ambassadors that inspire wellness every day. Leaders who are rooting for you to be the best version of yourself. A community that works hard and plays hard. You deserve to experience adventures that take you around the world, and you deserve to be recognized for your hard work. It's time to get what you deserve. It's time to shift your focus. 3.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where in the world you're tuning in from. Hey gang, Gary Whorton here, and I am tuning in to you this morning from my living room. I am back home here in Sedona, Arizona. It's a little bit early here. It's just after 4 in the morning, but I've been on an amazing adventure for quite some time now. And so I just got back to the United States from the tour that we had in 2 countries in particular in Southeast Asia. So as many of you might have heard, we opened up our incredible, pristine, beautiful, really stylish office in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. And it was a real gift to not only get a chance to be there as part of the opening, to christen the space and to welcome in, all of the people who are going to transform a lot of lives out of that office. But we also had multiple events. We had a leadership summit in Kuala Lumpur as well too. So it was an incredible time, and a really exciting chapter for us for what we're doing in Southeast Asia. From there, I took a flight over to Taipei and in Taiwan, where we opened up our 4th international office in Taipei. Such an incredible city. I love Taiwan so much. There's so many things I'd like to just rattle off here about it, but it's really an incredible country, modern. It's fascinating. I'm super excited about what we're doing and how you see it manifesting in real time in these countries around the world. So that puts us now with 5 offices. That's going to be our corporate office. It's located in Lehi, Utah. We opened up the first international office, and that is in Tsim Sha Tsui in Hong Kong. So that's the first one. Then we opened up the second international office. That was in Jakarta, Indonesia. And then just recently, we opened up Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and now Taipei, Taiwan. So we are rocking and rolling, and it's a really, really an incredible time to see what we're doing here at 3. Now, folks, what I want to do today is a little bit different than your standard onboarding call. First thing I want to say is that, Dr. Lena Gamble was with all of us last week, or at the last couple of weeks on the tour with us at the different office openings, and we got to hear from her and she got to speak from the stage. And so last week she did a phenomenal job in her onboarding call to kind of talk to you about the systems and getting you up and running, and what is the importance of beginning with a certain strategy. What is the format of how you begin? So I'm going to highly encourage you, if you haven't had a chance to see her onboarding call from last week, go and take a look in the archive and grab that because it is a phenomenal one. For today, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to take us just a little bit of a step beyond because as you get going in the business, there are a few things that you want to try to get under your belt. You want to master as soon as you can. And this is one of the most simple ones. But I want to spend a little time with you today to kind of talk about the importance of why we do it. So one of the things that you're going to do as you start to talk to people and you invite your friends and your family and colleagues, and then you begin to expand beyond that, and you begin to help others do the same. Edification. Edification is one of the most important things that you can do, and it is essential that you do edification in a number of different ways. I like to think about it as think about a story, a great story. I was thinking about this a little bit yesterday, and how important it is that before, let's say, you offer a gift or you're trying to introduce something, the person that's going to be receiving that has no idea of what the value of that is. It's incumbent upon us, it's incumbent on you to make sure that you share with them what is the benefit to them, right? How do you, how, if let's say for example a movie. Let's say for example we'll take Lord of the Rings for that matter, right? That's a pretty big film. Most people know about it. It's been around a long time. At least the story has been around a long time. And even in the title Lord of the Rings, it begins to infer a certain story, a certain magic, right? So even before you click the play button or you open up the book, you're already wondering like, oh, what is this about? um when you go to edify, whether it's a gift, whether it's a person, a business, a product, you're going to get people a much different response if you're willing to share with them. I'll give you, for example. So I have a book here. This is actually one of my favorite books of all time. This is Big Magic. This is Elizabeth Gilbert. This is a great book, by the way. So if you want to grow and you're into that kind of thing, it's Creative Living Beyond Fear. This is a phenomenal book. It's one of my favorites. You can see I have millions of tags in it. Okay. So if I was just to take this book and I was to hand it to somebody, hey, read this book, you're going to like it. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like it's pretty. I mean, it's colorful. It's certainly attractive. You know what I mean? But we can't just give the book and say there's no reason for it. But however, if you were to say, hey, listen, John or Samantha, I recently got introduced to a story that really shifted my perspective. And I want to share it with you because let me tell you why. So a friend of mine recommended that I read this book by this author who's kind of known. She's been around for a little bit. She's had a couple successful books, and one of them has certainly become a big Hollywood film. Um, but I got recommended this book because I was really struggling with stepping out of my comfort zone. And as soon as I opened the pages, I really just felt like I was pulled into the story. And before I know it, I could see myself in the pages as I would turn the page, you know what I mean? And before I knew it, I was making post-it notes and I was highlighting things. It was transformative. And if I was to tell you that reading this book was one of the pieces of content that was at a certain pivotal life change moment in my life, you know what I mean? It was profoundly important to me. You know what I mean? When you edify a book, a person, a business, a product, and you do it from your own personal story, but you also recognize that entity, it really changes the game for somebody to be receptive. They understand that they are being introduced to something that is either maybe meaningful to you or has achieved some sort of recognition in the world, right? As has for some reason, people are gravitating towards this product line, you know what I mean, or this company, this business. So edification is really important, my friends. And so, um, I like to say that edification is the intentional act of building up others with your own words, with your presence, and with your belief. The world of leadership, business, especially in the community, how you talk about people when they're not in the room, you know what I mean, is as important as how you talk about them when they are in the room. How many times have you ever heard it that your friends are the ones who speak up for you when you're not at the table? 100%. right? Well, it's the same. Edification is exactly that, you know. So today I want to talk about a couple things. I want to talk about what is edification and what it isn't, why it matters, how to do it with integrity, with power, and with purpose. And I'll share a personal story just about how, you know, some edification on my part that I received that actually changed an experience that I had, right? So, what is edification? At its core, edification means to uplift, it means to build it, and it means to affirm. It's not flattery. Don't we want to make sure that we don't get that confused, right? You are building something up. It isn't about showering praise. You're building something up intentionally. It's not manipulation, and it's certainly not exaggeration, right? You're constructing, you're creating an arc of a story. Edification is more like a strategic sincerity, really. It is the art of recognizing someone's strengths and calling them forward in a way that builds trust, it builds belief, and it builds alignment, right? In our world, whether you're inviting somebody to look, you know, at a business, our business, you're promoting an event, you're inviting people to come to an event, or a speaker, edification begins to set the tone for whatever that experience is going to be, right? And so for us, you know, something that you're going to start hearing a lot more and more about is that we're really uh, shifting a bit to a wellness open house kind of model here in the United States, right? We see it attracts a lot of people, and just like the movie The Lord of the Rings, right in the description, it gives people a little bit of an insight of what it is that they're stepping into. Excuse me. Um, it establishes a credibility and creates an emotional safety for people, so that way they can open their hearts and their minds. Right. I've heard Samson taught me this quite some time ago. This is one of the things that we say, you know, when we're holding an event, is that, you know, minds are like parachutes. They're best when they're open. So, you know, if we can kind of help, you know, by setting a tone and through our edification, begin to open people's minds and their hearts just by the stories that we're sharing and how we're lifting up people and the product and the company, it is going to make the work that we do a lot easier. And it makes it a lot more fun too, honestly, people. I mean, what we have and what we're building at 3 International is incredible. It's phenomenal what we're doing. I'm so excited to be a part of it. I think the product line is second to none. See, here I am going to go. I'm going to start like intentionally edifying right on the moment, right? I think the product line is second to none. I really do. You know, we have third-party studies. We have a founder and a CEO in tandem with a scientific advisory board and chief science officer who believes in transparency and shares those studies, you know, with the public. That way people can see for themselves what our bioavailability is, our absorption rate. Why do our products work so well when people begin to take them? Why do they feel them so quickly? How can they see results? You know, our product line is incredible. You know, we have a CEO who understands the international marketplace like nobody's business. Daniel is one of the smartest people I know. I think the thing that I set aside from all the business, right? I could sing his praises left and right. But what I love about Daniel is that every time I see Daniel, he is so heart-centered when it comes to people, right? And he gets it, right? The people, the product is the product. It is the central component of what we're doing at 3, but the heart is the people, right? And so I think Daniel does a masterful job of lifting up people. And I also think that he's one of the best dad joke storytellers on the planet, by the way. So Daniel, I'm gonna, you know, you have to live up to that, you know. So I challenge you at our future events to keep sliding a few more in there. You know, I know you get the eye rolls, but it's still fun. You know, Dr. Dan Gubler, right? You know, I love every time I get an opportunity to talk about Dr. Dan, is that I really like to share his story. You know, Dr. Dan's, when he was growing up, his hero growing up was his grandfather. And his grandfather was a part of one of the team of scientists that helped discovered thiamine, vitamin B1, right? And so this towering figure in Dr. Gubler's life was his idol. It was his hero. And so he looked up to him. And the day came when Daniel's grandfather was diagnosed with cancer, and it devastated him, right? As it will any one of us. Can you imagine? I mean, and many of us in this company have had experiences like this. You know, it's a lot of the reasons for it. Some of us are drawn to what we're doing is about the health and wellness, right? So if you can imagine what that was like for him, you know, and being a kid and just hearing the giant C word and maybe not understanding everything that that means, you know, it really set him and his life on a trajectory. It changed the course of action in his life of how he wanted to serve and how he wanted to help people. I think that's incredible. I mean, it shows you what is the driver, what is in the core, what is at the heart center of the person who is formulating our product line, right? So for me, at this chapter in my life, intentionality is really important. It's about purpose, it's about intention. It deeply matters to me, the people that I work with, and what our mission is. What is it we want to do? What is it we want to do? We can go much farther together. And that's one of the things that I love about three. Three is about lifting up people. If I pivot over a little bit to to the field side, we have we have the most incredible leader. We have Kim Hui leading the line. I'm telling you, I mean, many of you know, I've known Kim for a number of years. She's a friend of mine, but she is one of the hardest working people I have ever seen in my entire life. It's true. I was messaging her. It's time is it now? Yeah, it's about 4 in the morning. But I was messaging her last night because she had stayed behind in Asia to assist further in Taiwan, in a little bit in Hong Kong. She went over to Hong Kong, which was unexpected for her, but then also returned back to Malaysia, where we just opened the office, to stay on the ground, to help, to work with people. There is a reason why that she's number one worldwide, gang. There's a reason for it, right? Success leaves clues. She works really hard and she's there to support her team and all of our teams. I think that when you have people like Kim, people like Samson, I can go down the whole list, you guys. There's a ton there. We have many of them. Um, we have so many leaders that are genuinely interested in the development of other people. And when that is your benchmark, when that is the goal that you're striving for, I'm telling you, it is something that's truly profound because it's beyond self-enrichment. Everybody wants to be comfortable, I think. Uh, myself, when I started this endeavor a couple of years ago, I had done really well in real estate. Many of you folks know that. If you haven't heard my story, I'm not going to go into it in total at this moment in time, but I did really well in my previous career in real estate. Top 1% of real estate agents in the world, according to volume. And one of the things that I learned is that I got to take a transformational trip, and I went to Africa in 2022, and it was everything of my heart's desire. It was all of my dreams coming true. It was so Indiana Jones. I mean, it lit up the little kid in me like you wouldn't believe. I flew into Nairobi. I got to go to the Giraffe Center, and I got to experience the Kazuri Bead Center, which is a phenomenal organization that brings in single women throughout regions of Africa, and they teamed up together to make these beautiful beads that they export all over the world. It's incredible, incredible operation that they have. That's all about the people at its core. I got to take these small twin engine plane flights off of dirt fields and land on escarpments and stay in brass tented pole camps, and listen to lions roar at night just outside of my tent. I got to take a hot air balloon that floated over the Masai Mara, the famous river in Africa where the Great Migration takes place, and you could see all the animals cross over. It was just, I got to go to an orphanage. I got to go to a school. I got invited into an actual home of the Mata people, the Maasai people, excuse me. It was incredible. It was incredible. From then, I took a flight into Rwanda. I got to go to the Rwandan Genocide Museum, which was somber, powerful experience. And then I took a Jeep up into the Volcanoes National Park, stayed at the base, and I got to hike. I got to hike with the gorillas in the mist, as I like to say. You know, just silverback gorillas just standing feet away from me. It was the most incredible experience of my life. But what I found with that, as fulfilling as that was, there was one thing that was missing from it. That the vast majority of the people that I knew and I loved couldn't afford to go on a trip like that. It was exorbitantly expensive. It was over the top luxury. It was an incredible experience. But I don't know. I mean, I might have friends that have done well, but the majority of the people that I love and that mean a great deal to me could not afford that trip. And so for me, when I think about the leadership of this company and what's at our heart center, what's at our mission, or why we're doing what we're doing, it's about lifting up everybody, right? It's everybody giving a fair opportunity. We all have 24 hours in a day. And I think if you have the right visionary, if you have the right leadership, and you have the right North Star, you have the right components, you have the right leadership in a company, you've got the right product line, you can go places that people wouldn't dream of. And fortunately for you, you're at the very beginning of this because we are literally opening up offices as we speak all over the world. So anyway, my friends, I got a little bit off track there. But what I want you to understand of what I'm doing on the spot in the heart of it is I just edified our mission. I edified our company, our leadership, our product, our scientist. People, when you share things through story, and you build people up, they can see the arc, right? Like you're going to do so much better than just handing them a book that they know nothing about. You know, I want to be really clear. If you don't edify the messenger, the message will fall completely fat. So all the hard work that you're doing about writing your list of names and you're reaching out to people, all of that stuff, it is essential that you edify the messenger or the event, right? Like we know that, there are so many different ways we can present the opportunity. We have teams of leaders that work really hard every single week that present Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, for you guys or for all of us all over the world. And if you're going to send out one of those presentations or invite somebody to a live recording of one, it's really important that you edify them. If you say, for example, you have a it's a Monday's right around the corner. Maybe it's a Sunday night, and you have somebody that's going to be on the live call on Monday. And let's say we have Holly DeMont, who's going to be the presenter on Monday night. What you really want to do is you want to drive into Holly's story a little bit. You know what I mean? She was in corporate. It was in corporate for many years. She did everything that she was told to do. She got a job. She went to college. She worked really, really hard. She put herself out there. She sacrificed. She did everything that the system told her that she was supposed to do. And yet she still found herself in a group of people that laid off people en masse. What do you do? You know? Well, somebody like Holly is really resourceful and she works really hard. And so she retooled everything. She retooled, the way she thought about business. She opened her mind and like, how can I change this? How can I change the scenario to where I don't ever have to be in this situation again? Right. And it's taken her a long time, but there is a reason why she's one of the top leaders in the industry. And we have her here at 3. Same thing with Christine Peterson, right? We have phenomenal leadership at 3. And I'm so excited that we get to do this project together. But it's really important if any one of these leaders is going to be presenting, Christine Peterson, #1 worldwide in her previous platform, right? #1 worldwide. That's incredible. She has seen, more things, to mean in business than most people will ever dream. She is a wealth of resources and information and context and story. If you share that background about her and you have somebody coming to her call, man, they're going to feel like, wow, I've got the greatest seat in the house, even though it's from my living room. That's the key. And that's your goal, right? Is that what you ultimately want to do is you want to build somebody up before they get on the call. You've got to do the heavy lifting so that way people see the value of why they're attending, why they're taking the product, or why they're joining a company. People buy belief. People follow posture. You know what I mean? People respond to energy, and edification transfers all 3 of those. So it's really important to make sure that you're edifying at all times. So why it matters. So let's break it down just a little bit. Fix my hair just a little bit here. You can still see me okay. Look at the hat though, right? There are 3 critical targets, of edification in our profession. And so you want to edify the leader. Talked a lot about that just now with 2 examples in Holly and Christine. When you introduce somebody, like it's a mentor or it's going to be a speaker or a teammate, you have one job. You have one job, and that's to make that person 10 feet tall before they open their mouth. Really, really important. Why? Because people listen differently when they trust the messenger. And people will trust the messenger if you are able to connect with them, especially through heart stories, or they understand what is their, how did they get where they're at? How do they have this information? How do they have this knowledge? Where did they get that from? This is someone I admire, someone who's been where you're at, somebody who knows how to help. I like Kim always says that, like, one of the things that you want to do, we have such a vast array of leadership and people and we each have our own stories on top of that, right? And so one of the things Kim always likes to say is you always want to connect with them. You want people to see themselves in your story. So I'll give you an example on something that I do when I'm talking, right? And this is also how you can kind of talk about a leader in a little bit different verbiage. You know, one of the things for me in real estate that got really that just really kind of wore me out. This fatiguing is that every time I close a transaction, I've got to get back out in the field. I got to build new relationships. I got to maintain all the old relationships so they come back to me. It's you want to get the system running. Um, so, I would have to go out and I'd have to build it all over. I close an escrow. I got to start all the way from scratch. I got to do it over and over and over again. It's just the process of doing it again and again and again and again. There's no residual to it, right? Different, it's a whole different way of thinking when you get the difference in leverage income versus linear income. So, when you're sharing that type of thing, usually when I say that story, people are like, yeah, in whatever my job is, what I mean? I can connect with that. I can understand that, right? My job is something similar, you know what I mean? Or I'm in construction, and if I'm building an apartment complex or I'm pouring concrete or whatever it is, you're installing the new plumbing. Um, you got to do it over and over again, right? And so sometimes I think that those type of messages, when we share those messages, like they will resonate with other people. Um, inviting the leader up at that point in time after you've done your job. I mean, it's really simple, folks. You know what I mean? So if I was going to, we'll take Kim, for example, right? We'll just use Kim as an example here. Is that, anytime that I've ever introduced Kim, what I like to say is, you know what I mean? First off, well, let me tell you a little bit about how I know Kim. This is somebody who I met in my profession in real estate. I've had the great, fortune to represent her on a number of transactions. And from the inside of that system, I know what her integrity standpoint is like. I know this woman. And so it was not a far stretch that when she decided to get off the sidelines and come out and build a legacy project, that I was going to join her because I already trusted her, right? Like that's how I just begin, right? So building up your friends or your family or your upline, your sponsors, you know what I mean? Everybody doesn't matter where they're placed in your organization, you should always edify them, always. So by the time that you kind of talk about the personal connection that you might have or whatever that is, and you can alter it to where it fits you, then you can go and you can start talking about the professional sides. Outside of that, what I didn't know about Kim is I didn't know that she was number one in the industry worldwide. I didn't know that about her, you know? And here's somebody who has achieved an extraordinary amount of financial success. But more importantly, she's changed a lot of lives along the way. And even before I joined this opportunity, before it even had a name, I started talking to some people. This is a true story, by the way, for me, guys. I don't know if I've ever actually even shared this with people before. I did. I called Samson, I called Harris, and I think I talked to Patrick a little bit too, actually. And these are people that had worked with Kim in the past. I wanted to know what their experience was like. I wanted to know, can I see myself doing what they did? And what was their success? You know what I mean? Harris, to his credit, told me that, like, Gary, I didn't really get started until like the very end. And I was shocked at how well he did in a short period of time. Right. So anyway, my point to all of that is that, you know, when I edify a speaker in particular, usually I start with the human connection. And then from the human connection or how I know them, I'll go into their professional credentials. And, and then at that point, you just turn it over and, please welcome, to the front, Miss Kim Hui. And so people start to clap and they already see the value. They understand that the person has worked really hard to get where they're at and that this is somebody of authority. This is somebody who has experience, and it is worth your time to listen. That's ultimately what you're trying to do. So when we think in terms of edify the product, I kind of did that a little bit earlier. We're not selling supplements, my friends. We're offering solutions. We are. I think about Vitalite. I love that. I love all of our products. I mean, obviously, but even still to this day, when I have somebody new come online and they get to try Vitality, I still get the question, is there caffeine in it? I'm like, no, there's not. You know what I mean? The difference is that you're giving your body what your body actually needs, and it's done in a way your body can actually absorb it versus get rid of it, through very expensive urine hours before the next day, you know? So there's a reason why our products work so well. Collagen, right? Our collagen. I'll never forget when my mom took collagen for the first time, and she did a selfie on day one before she took it. She did a selfie on day three, and she did a selfie on the 10th day when she ended the cycle, the 10-day cycle that we take it for, right? And to this day, substantial results. You can see it. You can absolutely see in her complexion, you know what I mean? That her body is responding very positively to it, And I love my mom. My mom is incredible. She is not the most tech person though. She often listen, neither am I. I often have to go to my nieces and nephews to figure out how to do anything on my phone. But my mom is even worse, right? And so, she doesn't know how to do the filters and all that kind of stuff. She brings up the camera, she takes the picture, and that's all she does. And it's very simple. So there's a magic to it. We offer solutions. It's about transformation. It's about energy. It's about giving people hope that they can not only feel better, but they can let their family feel better. They can share this with their friends, and their friends can feel better. Edifying the product isn't just rattling off ingredients. It's sharing what the product represents in someone's life. And that is the key, my friends, right? Is that if people can see themselves in the story, I'll never forget. In Southern California last year, there was a series of terrible fires that blazed through and destroyed a lot of places. And one of the challenges is that it put some of these structures were just old homes, and historic homes in a lot of ways. And when these homes went up, there's so many different chemicals and things toxins that got put into the air, right? And what I know for a fact is that for my friends and family that were in LA, the Purify became of high interest to them, right? It detoxes the five main elimination organs of the body. And that was one of their biggest concerns. Getting through the fires and having to lose all their stuff, that was just the beginning part of the trauma, right? They were looking for a solution as to, now that I've lost everything, how do I not lose the one thing that I carry with me? You know what I mean? And so that was it. It was of high interest to people because they wanted to try to take as best care of themselves as they possibly could. You know, um, Purify. You know what I mean? Like I think it's one of the key. I think it's one of the key products that we have that actually had such a substantial impact on myself and my journey, my health journey. I've lost a significant amount of weight at this point. Um, and I think it certainly has something to do with it. You know what I mean? So when I share that with people, like, what is my story at 3? I don't exclusively say it's all because of the product. It's a part of it, certainly, but it's also about the lifestyle, right? So again, you can edify in multiple ways all at the same time. Um, and I think, and people recognize it too. That's the other thing too, is I can't tell you. So we had the convention in Salt Lake City just before that I had left for Asia to open up the offices. And I had so many friends that I hadn't seen in a year approach me. And they're like, "Oh my God, Gary, what is going on with you?" Like, it's a shocking amount of people that can see it. They can see the difference in me. If these are the people that can see me, at 3, what do you think that my friends and family are saying? You know? People on Facebook or some of these social media platforms, I'm not really on there a lot, but I try to put myself out there enough just so people know what's going on in my life. But anyway, like, people can see it, and that is one of the greatest testimonials that you will ever have. It is a beautiful way of edifying the product, edifying the company. I did so much of that early in this call, but in a crowded world of options, edification is how we differentiate and dignify, and we tell the origin story. We talk about the science and we share the vision of the company. Because when you edify the company, you create a larger container of belief. You're not just buying, a product, you're joining a movement. And that has never been more true. I can tell you that, like, from my experience of all the travels that I've done, all over the world now at this point, and I see all the different people that are coming in. That was weird. Why do I do that? I liked it better like that. Anyway, ignore me. I am really not awake yet. That's a little jet lag still. It was that was a bit of travel. But anyway, my point is that you get to see all these different factions of people, these beautiful people from all these different professions and backgrounds and cultures and races and ages and sexes and everything. There's just a melting pot of a lot of different people from a lot of different lives. And you can see the common thread, and there's a power in commerce with that, right? Is that we're all united. We're all people that are trying to live healthier, better lives and also create a different model so we can live differently financially. Um, the story, I want to share a story with you that I think is really, really important. And I remember fragments of it, but it was a really challenging time for me. Okay. Now, I was asked to participate in an event in Singapore 2 years ago, and this was my first event. I hadn't really gotten fluid with testimonial, things like that. It all comes with time. I promise you, my friends, it does. Um, and so I had spoken in Singapore, and I was really critical about myself. I was overly critical, and I'm really grateful to have friends around me that also told me I was being overcritical of myself. But sometimes when we get in our own way, we are our own worst critics, and boy, was I ever. And then shortly thereafter, we headed to Kuala Lumpur, which will always have a special place in my heart because of this story. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the presentation and the speakers in the room and the people. The people were so kind. And I remember I was a bit nervous, you know what I mean? But I do remember the speaker edifying me and talking about what I had accomplished in my life. The fact that I was somebody who came from a very meager background, and I shared some of this in my story as well too. Is that when I was a kid, I was poor. There was a time when we were destitute. I lived in a tent on the side of the river with my mom and my little brother. And so if I can share my story that's the place that I was at one point in my life, and yet I became, a real estate agent that was really, you know what I mean, at the top of the game, and I was selling incredible properties and representing, prestigious architecture in these beautiful, fine homes, and people were trusting me with a lot of times their biggest asset. It's a pretty big arc of a story. And people listen. And so when the speaker came up and they edified me, not that they didn't do that in Singapore, because they certainly did, but again, it was also the headspace that I was in, right? And I think I responded to it better. It's really incredible. And I got up on that on the stage, and I shared my story. I just remember having such an incredible experience. It shifted everything for me. It shifted how I saw myself. I could see the resonance with the people in the audience. So many people came up to me afterwards to say thank you for being willing to share such vulnerable parts about myself. People resonate with vulnerability, folks. They really do. In a world that is so overproduced, and everything tries to put on this glossy, you know what I mean, depiction, which we all know is not certainly not how my life has been. Anyway, you know what I mean? It's really a delight when you get something that it's its core, that it's just real. You know what I mean? And so yeah, be vulnerable, share your story, edify the company, edify the product, edify the speakers. Um, it's just the power of edification. You know what I mean? It's not just for the person that's being introduced, but for the listener who's deciding if this is safe, if this is real, and ultimately if this is for them. My little munchkin wants to say hi. Hi, honey. I love you, but not right now. Okay. All right. So that being said, we're on the home stretch here, folks. And so what I want to do is I want to give you just three primary takeaways, right? Just three things that you can take away with you from today's call, and you'll always be able to play this back if this is of help to you. So, um, you know, takeaway number one: edify up, edify down, edify sideways, edify diagonally, edify in every which way. This is really and really important. Just I want you really, if you have to, say to yourself every day for a month, edify everybody in my organization. And you say that to yourself out loud, say it to yourself in the mirror, just wire it into your psyche, how important that is, right? It creates a culture. It creates a culture of mutual respect, not hierarchy. It's respect. So this is someone I learn from. This is someone I admire. This is someone to watch. These are catchwords that people will tune into, and they will help them kind of really tune in and really listen to what it is that speaker has to say. And ultimately, what's going to happen is you're going to see the result in your numbers later, right? Uh, Takeaway number two, be specific and be sincere. Generic praise doesn't stick. He's great. It's flat. Like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? You know, um, uh, you want to give texture, you want to give layers, you want to give depth. What I admire most about her is her consistency, right? What I said about Kim earlier, you know, I don't know anybody. I have never worked with anybody who has a higher integrity set point than Kim. To me personally, right? This is my experience, you know. Um, he always makes me, he always makes time to answer my questions, you know. She helped me believe in myself again. It's power. These are all things I've heard just in the last couple months, you know. So be specific, be sincere, speak from the heart, right? It's gonna people are going to recognize it. Don't just gloss over and say, this is great, this is incredible. Explain why. Give somebody something to grab onto with that statement. And the third takeaway I want you to do is I want you to practice public edification. And it doesn't matter. You can be 4 in the morning in your home, in your kitchen, family's asleep, whatever, wherever. Do it in the bathroom when you have private time. You know what I mean? It's very simple. You don't need to say a lot. You just keep it short, keep it dense, get the impact in there, speak from the heart, and it'll go well for you. And when you edify, you know what I mean? Do it at all times. Any time that you're inviting a speaker, you're talking about a product, use social media, group chats, on your team calls. I can't tell you, I'm gonna be something, I'm gonna tell you something really embarrassing. I'm gonna share because and this is the whole point of vulnerability, right? I want you to take away, I want the listener or the watcher to take away that part of the story. I remember like when I got started with this, uh, Kim. So I had Kim do a call for me. You know what I mean? And I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but I am going to say it. Kim got on the call, and I got on the call, and I was really green, and I said, Kim, this is so and so. I'd like you to meet this person, so and so. This is Kim. Kim, take it away. Oh, if I only knew then what I know now. You know what I mean? Like I literally put everything onto Kim, like as if there's not enough. Like, I really put everything onto Kim for her to like, okay, girlfriend, construct this all the way up. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of stuff that you want to avoid. And what do they say? Tony Robbins says repetition is the mother of mastery, right? And so when you have these quiet moments, whether you're in your bathroom, in your backyard, it doesn't matter. Even in your car, my friends, there's plenty of time. Practice your edification. You know what I mean? Like just get it fluid. You know what I mean? Just get it down. And for everybody, you know what I mean? It's really important that people see the value in each other, that we hear it, that we share it. Again, it's about mutual respect. It isn't hierarchy. So, you know, um, in closing, I want to leave you with this. I want to leave you with this. We rise by lifting others. That's ultimately what it is. We rise by lifting others. And edification is how we rise and how we do it with intentionality, with intention. It'll cost you nothing to build someone up. But in return, the return you get is limitless. You're putting positive affirmation out into the world. You're speaking kindly of somebody. You're respecting the person who has either come online to watch your video, to show up at your event, to sit in the chair for an hour or two, or you know what I mean? You're showing them that you respect their time by showing them the value of what it is that you're trying to offer them. Let's be a team and edifying each other with excellence. Doesn't matter if they're on the same lineage, some team, like we're all in this together. And if we operate that way, we are going to create a phenomenal reality for all of us. So my friends, that's all I have for you today. Again, a little bit of a different for an onboarding call today. I really, really wanted to really drive in the importance of edification. And again, I invite you for a little bit more of the structure of how you get started to, go back and check out whether it's Dr. Lena's video. There's a whole, league of videos that we do each week for the enrollment process. So I thank you for your time. No matter where you're at in the world, I hope you have an incredible day. And I'm looking forward to seeing you out there. This is a really exciting time for what we're doing. And I just think that well, I'll leave it at that. I'm having a really good time. So with that, my friends, enjoy, and I'll see you real soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.